from Storybrooke. I'm Bobby Hawk,
I'm Elizabeth Placencia.
and this is the land where dark curses are made. And we also talk about ABC's hit series Once Upon a Time. How are you doing this week, Elizabeth?
I'm doing good this week. It's been a long
Uh,
week.
Sorry about that little giggle when I said hit, but I guess that's a little spoiler for our news and speculation. We'll get to that later. But anyway, obviously Tony's not going to be with us this week. It's just a two-man show this week. Sorry about postponing it a little bit, but let's just get right on it with Elizabeth and our rhyming summary.
Season 6, Episode 16. The Black Fairy's up to an evil plot. What it is, we do know not. She took Gideon when he was a baby. Does she really want to be a mother? Well, maybe. Regina is trying to break the evil queen's curse, but what happens to Henry may be quite worse. Henry's eyes get all freaky when his author's powers go all stinky. So much of this episode is so helter-skelter. In this week's episode, Mother's Little Helper.
Mother's Little Helper.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Uh, do we even want to talk about like what we thought about this episode, or should we just
Yes, I want to say what I thought.
Okay. What did you think about this week's episode, Elizabeth?
I hated this episode. Like, honestly, I would be okay if we didn't even do a podcast about it this week. Like, that's how much I hated it. I can live without talking about it. And it's nothing against
Another
you
one of
or our listeners. It's nothing against anybody. I just hated the episode that much. And I don't think I've ever hated an episode of Once Upon a Time as much as I hate this episode.
So I'm probably right there with you. Again, we'll get into the whys and hows, but yeah, this wasn't a great episode. I know you said you only watched it once because you couldn't bear. I have to watch it 2 or 3 times to make my notes, put my things together about what I want to talk about and whatnot. So yeah, it wasn't a fun process this week, guys. I mean, okay. I mean, if this is any bearing, like I was supposed to put my notes together Monday, and I did, but then when I got here Wednesday and Thursday and started looking at the notes again, I was really looking at them and really couldn't like. It wasn't notes. It was just like, this is what's happening. You know what I'm saying? All I was writing was what's happening on the screen, and I couldn't like really. I don't know. It took me a long time to come up with what I wanted to talk about because there was just so much that was like. All right, you know what? Like I said, let's just get into the episode. Here recently, they've been trying to play like like it's the first season with the whole flashback and present day thing, like kind of paralleling each other, leading to like the main story. Usually I try it when it comes to the main story and everything, and I try to like figure out what the theme of the episodes are. And most good episodes have a theme, whether it be like the sins of the father or forgiveness or just different, whatever. There's been many themes of episodes, and I couldn't find one real main theme in this episode at all. I felt like this episode was almost like some weird transition as far as just like, now we're brushing all of that, what's happened in the past aside, and this is, okay, now we're on to what's going on in the last few episodes. So maybe it suffered from that it was trying to do too much in one episode. But anyway, as far as the flashback goes, and it wasn't even a flashback because flashback really happened during this season. Most flashbacks we get are about like many years ago, several years ago in the Enchanted Forest and this and there. Now, granted, this wasn't another land. It was whatever land it is that the Black Fairy is in. But the 28 years that Gideon was gone all happened within the span of the first part of the season.
Yep. Oh man.
Something
My
wrong,
computer.
Elizabeth?
Yeah, my computer keeps freezing.
Oh,
So you keep
I'm
freezing.
sorry.
So it's not your fault.
Well,
It's just I don't know how
oh,
to fix it.
well, you're fine. Well, I mean, I hear you for fine for now. I mean, did
Okay.
you hear what I was saying
Yeah, no,
about the
I heard
flashbacks?
you, and yeah, I heard you, and then you froze for like 2 seconds, and then you were fine, and that's when I commented, and you're like, "Oh, what's wrong?"
What do you have? Well, well, what do you think is about like? I mean, were you confused at all about like the whole flashback thing?
There was more specific things I was confused about, but when it comes to the flashbacks, I wasn't really confused because I knew we were going to get a Gideon backstory. So I knew that was coming, and that's what happened in
Okay.
this episode. So that was fine for me.
Well, of course, yeah.
And it did match a story that Gideon had previously told. You
True,
remember?
and
So,
yeah, and I did. I mean, I wasn't real. The backstory with Gideon wasn't really my issue about this episode. That
mhm.
was actually one of the few things that I thought was somewhat interesting. But there are a few things that kind of threw me in it. We were discussing earlier off camera about
Yeah.
the dark curse. Like they
Oy
say
vey.
yeah, I know. Well, and I mean, well, okay, they say the dark curse. Um, Now this is confusing for a number of things because, like, I feel like in the episode when they talk about it, it almost feels like they're talking about it as if this is something that um, recently within that episode, then like that means that the dark curse that they were referring to happened within the past season. For all intents and purposes. And so obviously it can't be if that's the case, then it can't be referring to the dark curse that, to Rumple's dark curse. But of course, when you hear the dark curse,
Mhm.
the first thing you think of is, the dark curse that started this series.
Yep.
So I don't know. I found that to be quite confusing. And then okay, let's just say let's just like put that argument aside. Let's just say there can only be one the dark curse. You can't just keep referring to dark curses as the dark curse.
Mhm.
Um, so let's say that they are referring to the dark curse that created Storybrooke. That she is the one that created that dark curse. How did Rumple get a hold of it? Um, why was she creating it in the first place? And is this now what she's doing, trying to recreate another dark curse as far as with all these children in the mines, with all the black fairy dust and everything else? Um, like, I don't know. So, again, these are questions I'm sure, hopefully, that they'll answer in the next few episodes, seeing as they've laid out these questions. But yeah, and that's what I felt like a lot of this episode was just so confusing.
Sorry, you froze
But
again.
yeah, I mean, oh, you're fine. Just everything was, like I said, everything was really confusing. Um,
Mhm.
like everything just happened. Like you said, like your point here about the Black Fairy and Gideon. What were you saying?
Yeah, I just at the beginning of the episode, we see the Black Fairy just flying with Gideon and going to her wherever she lives. And I'm just like, wait a minute, where's the Blue Fairy? Where's that conflict? Like she's just so happy to have the baby in her arms and or whatever, And I'm just like, I guess I expected some conflict there, a fight to get Gideon, and I guess they don't want to show that on screen. People fighting in the sky over a baby, maybe. I don't know. It wouldn't look good, but I guess I don't know. I just thought there would be something there, so I immediately took issue with the way the episode started with that.
And it didn't get any better from there because there were so many things that happened in the episode that were just like, oh, that happened, and oh, that happened. Like there
Mhm.
was even again, these are we'll talk about it when we get to it. But I mean, um, on the other side of the flashback, we have what's happening in present day, where it looks like Gideon has, I'm not going to say force. I mean, yes, but I mean, in the end, she's helping him because like she thinks that like he's doing it for a good cause. Like
Emma?
yes, like she's doing like, I mean, yes, Rumple helps, but like Rumple, um, Rumple tries to make her understand how evil the Black Fairy is, and I feel like that's the reason ultimately that Emma decides to help Gideon. That she thinks that, you know, Gideon's trying to, you know, stop evil in his land, and, you know, that's why she agrees, you know, to help.
Yeah, when Rumple reveals. Oh, sorry, you froze, and I thought you stopped talking. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
Then you unfroze, and I don't know why my computer's doing this.
Elizabeth, don't worry about it. You're fine. So what were you saying? What were you about to say?
No, I thought it was interesting when Rumple reveals to Emma and Snow that, oh yeah, the Black Fairy is my mother. That was like Emma. You could see her jaw almost dropping.
Yeah,
that was like.
And I don't know. Obviously, we got Gideon's backstory in this episode, but we didn't get Black Fairy's backstory. We still don't know. I hope so. I mean, we still don't know why she was with Rumple's dad to begin with, what made her leave, what made her turn into the Black Fairy. Now that we know, again, if that they must be referring to the Dark Curse, now that we know that she created it, why was she creating it? Was she trying to? So many questions, and maybe, I don't know. Maybe that's why I didn't like this episode. Is just there were so many questions. But I keep saying that. I mean, we're not even halfway done talking about this episode. I mean, we just talked. You know, like I said, okay, we're going off on tangents. Like I said, this is
another question I have is where do fairies come from? I don't know if that was explored in Neverland or not. I don't remember, because I'm just like, if fairies are born and not some other way, I'm just wondering, how is Rumple part fairy? Like, where's his wings?
The only real no, I don't think Rumple's part fairy, but the only real fairy like kind of episode like that that got into any kind of backstory on the fairies would be the only episode I can think of like that is the episode with
Tinkerbell?
Dreamy turning into Grumpy.
Yeah.
And Astrid and all that.
Yeah, I remember that.
Where you get kind of a little backstory on the dwarfs and a little backstory on fairies a little bit.
Yeah.
Like how dwarves are created. I don't know. I mean, that's the only episode I can think of that really delved into that. But I mean, as far as this episode goes, like I said, we in the, like, you know, flashback / present day. As far as the present day goes, we have Emma teaming up with Gideon. And like I said, I feel like Emma, even though she's being forced by Gideon, I don't think she would have really helped him without Rumple convincing her that you know, that he needed help. That, like, you know, yes, he's doing these evil things, but he's doing them for good.
I agree with you.
And that's getting kind of old too. The whole, like, and I'm sure we'll find out that that's ultimately what's going on with the Black Fairy too. That there's a reason that she, you know, that she went down the road that she went down. I know, and I don't think anyone really wants there to be a reason, to be quite honest with you. But
I
of course,
just had this discussion with my aunt downstairs. She was like, because I was telling her my opinion of the Black Fairy, which is colorful, and I don't like the Black Fairy. I think she's a jerk, to say the least. And I think, and my aunt was like, well, Regina was redeemed. I'm sure they're gonna try to do that with the Black Fairy. And I'm like, no, I don't want her to be redeemed. Why can't evil just be evil?
No, exactly. Why can't evil just be evil? It's not really like, like I guess Cruella is the only example that we've gotten of uh I'm sorry. Cruella is the only example we've gotten of like just like someone being evil for just to be evil.
Yeah.
Everyone else, there's been a reason, and so I don't think the Black Fairy is going to be any different, unfortunately. But I really did think that Gideon was like genuine when he was just like saying, you know, look, I've learned that I'm just you know that trying to defeat you is not going to work, so you know I need you to just help. You know, like I don't know. I thought that I thought he was convincing me just like he was convincing Emma. So when he double crossed her by shoving her into the webs, I didn't see that coming, but I should have. Uh, I mean, I really should have. And then of course we find out that that's not even like okay. So of course he's being controlled by whatever the Black Fairy. The Black Fairy has his heart. Again, I didn't see that coming, but probably should have. So how do you feel about both of those revelations?
I am with you. I think I should have seen those things coming, and I didn't see them coming.
But yeah,
especially...
that's what. So you were surprised though when they happened.
Yeah, no, I was surprised. I was surprised on both counts with the double crossing and him being controlled by his heart. And you're right. I mean, these are things we should have seen coming because they play out so often in this show.
Exactly. Emma being so sure that Gideon is evil and just wanting to like, okay, that's it. I'm going to go take him out. For a number of reasons. Number one, like I said, we both should have seen the heart thing coming because it's played out that way so many times on this show. So they should at least be like, you know, like have that as an option. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Harry has his heart. You know? I mean, no one speaks up and brings it forth as even a possibility. And so I felt that was, you know, that was a little off in hindsight. You know, like I said, we don't see that, but I mean, we're like, you know, these are people that live in this world. At the very least, Rumple should, you know, be like, well, you know, what if he's being manipulated in some way? You know?
Yeah, I mean, wasn't there a character at one point throughout the series, I'm trying to remember who, that was like, this person has my heart, this is why I'm doing what I'm doing. Like, I feel like it was Rumple at one point, someone had his heart, and he was revealing to the other characters, they have my heart, I'm being controlled.
I feel like maybe even Graham was Graham in the beginning of the series, I believe, was telling Emma that he was acting the way he acted because Regina had his heart.
Yeah, but she didn't believe at that time.
No, but I'm just saying that there are, you know, that's an example of it happening.
Yeah. So it's like, why won't Gideon say anything?
Well, no, okay, that's a good point too. I hadn't even, you know, extended it that far, but yes. And that's another thing too, that the heart rules kind of like are adaptable to whoever's writing the episode, because sometimes we've had it seen to where like it's literally like the person is like controlling their words and actions by holding their heart. Whereas others, it's just like they hold the heart and say, here, go do this, and then put the heart away, and the guy has to go do that. And yeah, so I mean, it's kind of fluid, which unfortunately is when you have a fantasy show like this, you can't really have fluid rules like that.
Nope.
You know, you got to have set rules. But like I said, yeah, they should realize that that's a possibility, that, you know, maybe Gideon is being manipulated. But then, of course, there's the scene at the end when, you know, when we, you know, find out that Black Fairy has come into this world, and what is it? He says to she says to him, she says, "There's always been a little part of you that wants to help me, isn't that right?" And then he says, "Yes, mother." Now again, he does have her, he points out to her, "You do have my heart. You're controlling me." But like you said, if he can say that to her, why can't he say that to Emma? I don't know. Again, so much of this episode.
So many questions.
I know. Okay, what was your point here? About the darkness?
Well, okay, at one point, so I was like, how in the heck is all the darkness and tests that Emma has faced born out of the dark fairy? Because that was what was said. And I've only seen the episode once, so I forget who said it. I think it was the Black Fairy. And I'm like, that made no sense to me at all. How was it born out of the Black Fairy? That makes no sense.
No, like you said, I watched the episode 3 times, and I'm not even saying it wasn't said. I just can't recall who said it or when it was said. Can you recall this at all?
I think it was the Black Fairy that said it, because she was talking about how she knows exactly who the Savior is.
Okay, yes, I do remember the scene where she says, "I know exactly who your Savior is."
I should have watched it a second time, but I just couldn't stomach it.
Wow. See, like I didn't even catch that. Now I almost want to at least go back and watch that scene or try to find that scene again to try to make sense of it. But yeah, there's just so much of this that just doesn't make sense, and they don't try to make it make any sense. There's like, okay, there's no explanation of any spells that have to be cast or why they have to be cast, or there's no explanation of there's the whole sweeping under the rug with Henry and Regina. There's just so much. Wow. Okay. And I guess you did have one more point about the beast they had to take on.
It was a giant spider. I hate spiders. If they're really small, I can kill them and be brave, because I've had boyfriends who are real pansies when it comes to spiders, and I've had to be the brave one. But otherwise, if it's a really big spider, I freak out, and this was a really big spider, and I'm like, I did not want to look at the screen. I didn't want to look. I was like, ah. And at the same time, it's like reminded me of Harry Potter and the spiders in Harry Potter. So
or Lord of the Rings.
I'm not a Lord of the Rings fan, so I wouldn't know that one. But
Shalab from Lord of the Rings.
See, and in Harry Potter, the big spider is called Aragog. So it was a huge spider, and there's a backstory to it. But anyways, it's just like I don't like giant spiders. I just don't. I was like,
see, it was foreshadowed in the beginning of the episode, because I believe when Gideon was talking to Roderick, reading him the story from the book that his mom gave him, he was the part of the story he was reading to Roderick was about the hero Gideon taking on a giant spider.
I didn't catch that at all. Okay.
So that's foreshadowing what would happen later in the episode. But once again, I don't know. I mean, beyond that, I don't know. That's one small piece of like a good part of the episode. I don't know. Like I said earlier, I feel like this was just a transition episode, and that's why everything feels like it does. Do you have anything else to add? Do you feel like you have anything else to add about what was going on in the main plot of the story as far as Gideon and Emma are concerned?
No, I'm just gonna go from your points, because I'm just gonna talk about.
No, I just wanted to make sure that you didn't have anything else to add.
Thank you.
But anyway, moving on. There were other things happening in this episode, such as Hook is still trying to get back to Emma. I found it odd that he didn't try to contact Emma at some point, because they both had those shells.
Well, he did try to contact her with a shell.
No, during this episode.
Well, Well, maybe he didn't have
Like,
another way to do it.
oh wait, no, never mind. I forgot that was the whole point of the tear thing. Like, they can't communicate now because,
Oh, that's the point of
or
the
she
tear? Because I
can't.
didn't understand that.
Yeah, in the last episode when Emma tried to talk to Hook, like Hook
Oh,
talked
you're
to
right.
Emma, but then when Emma tried to say, you know, Hook or whatever, to talk to him, Gideon showed up as Aesop and said,
That's right. Who knew a
you're
tear
not
could
gonna.
be so powerful?
Yeah. But again, they just do that, and there's no explanation of anyway. Uh, but okay, so Hook's trying to find a way to get back home, but unfortunately, because of that whole tear thing, whatever's going on, he can't get back home.
Nope.
Or at least directly anyway, and that's kind of my point here. So even he points out that maybe because of what's going on, the portal won't let him get home, and so that's why they're now stuck in Neverland again. And it'd be interesting to see if there's going to be any more as far as like how much time Blackbeard and Hook will be spending on Neverland. But I feel like this is kind of working like a genie's wish at this point. So maybe the portal didn't necessarily take him home, but like Blackbeard said, and that's what it does. And then he said, "I did. I thought about wanting to get home." And something about the wording he said was not. He wasn't thinking about home. He was thinking about wanting to get home. And so maybe there's something in Neverland that will help him get home.
Huh. I didn't think of that. That's
Like,
interesting.
again, like a genie's wish, where it's like, it's what you want, but not necessarily. You know what I'm saying? Where they mixed up the words of what you say. I don't know. It's
Yeah.
a mixture of the way he said it, or the way he was thinking it, and because of that whole curse thing that's going on, or whatever. It's not necessarily a curse, I guess. Again, confusing. I think that should just be the name of this episode, confusing. Um, um, and again, there wasn't really much going on besides that, really. I mean, we got it was kind of cool to see, Hook being a pirate again. And for good intentions, using his
Charm.
charm. Yeah, but that's not really the
I
word I was looking for.
I really liked how he was antagonizing Blackbeard. It was
Um,
funny to me.
no, it was that was probably my favorite part of the episode, quite honestly.
Yeah.
Was the interaction between Hook and Blackbeard. And yeah, to be quite honest, that was good. I liked that part of the episode. I could see an episode of just Hook and Blackbeard on Neverland trying to get back to Storybrooke, and I would be totally okay with that, to be quite honest with you.
It's not the bromance I want,
And
but
no, but it would certainly be better than anything that we pretty much anything that we got this episode, unfortunately.
yeah, it would be.
And then there was also another kind of little subplot, which I almost felt like this was the part of the episode where it was like, okay, this is what we're going to be dealing with moving on into like the last, the next few episodes at the very least. And that would be whatever was going on with Henry and Regina. We see them, we open with them. I believe she was in the vault.
Yep.
They were in the vault, and Henry was, or not Henry, Regina was going over like this list of like, okay, I've, how was it she said it?
I don't
I've
remember.
corrected. It was something along the lines of I've almost corrected everything she's done.
Yeah.
Which I didn't like. I
Why?
didn't like that. Because it wasn't everything she's done. It was, they were the same person, And then, and because it's not, because the things she even mentioned, she wasn't mentioning things that like the evil queen had been doing since they split. She was mentioning things that, that she did as the evil queen. Do you understand what I'm saying?
No.
Okay. Like the thing she was saying that she was correcting, it wasn't. I felt like she was. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but like I felt like she wasn't talking about just things that the evil queen had done. And that this gets this.
I thought that she was.
When maybe I'm wrong, because like okay, I know she referenced. What was it she referenced? I mean, it wasn't like the evil queen was out like doing all kinds of stuff. All she did was the town line thing. And then what else? I mean, she mentioned something about Dr. Doolittle. She mentioned something about Dr. Doolittle.
And then don't ask.
Yeah.
Why even mention it if we can't ask?
But that's what made me ask. That's what made me think that. So the Dr. Doolittle thing was something that and see when you call, okay, what do we call her? Evil Queen? Like,
yeah, Evil
2.0. I mean, but
no,
okay.
Okay, no, this is what it is. This is how I see it. When Evil Queen and Regina, they're in separate. They're separate now, separate bodies. It's almost like not exactly like twins, but they have different. They're doing different things, and
Well, yes, definitely at this point because she's. Yeah, definitely at this point because the other one is in another land at this point even. But I guess what I'm trying to say is like now that we're trying, like when we talk about stuff that happened in Once Upon a Time, and we reference the evil queen, it's like how do you distinguish this evil queen that's now in another land from the evil queen post or pre rather split?
That is like, okay. How about original Evil Queen versus new Evil Queen? I don't know.
But do you see what I'm saying? Where it can get confusing when I'm trying to. Anyway, that's a total tangent. But yeah. So anyway, we've got. She just kind of says that in an off the cuff sentence, sweeps everything under the rug, and that's what this episode is about. It's about like, okay, all of that's in the past, now we're moving on to this. And if so what has she reversed everything with the exception of the sleeping curse at this point?
Yeah.
Does she actually say that?
Yeah, she says she's fixed everything except the sleeping curse. She
does say that.
Yeah, not like in those exact words, but yeah, pretty much that's what she said.
But along those lines, and again, this is what I'm saying. So in a matter of 3 sentences, she just sweeps everything that's happened under the rug. And then Henry goes into whatever author trance. Suddenly it's important again that he's an author. Like. I don't know. Again, there's so many just questions about like, and I mean, obviously with this being that I feel like this is the story going forward or the main story going forward. I kind of lost my train of thought there. I don't know. I'm sure that there's a reason there's a lot of questions as far as this is concerned. Like I said, that being that this is going to be the main story going forward, but I love when anytime they go to the asylum because I love seeing Nurse Ratched and the Indian.
I didn't see the Indian. I just saw Nurse Ratched.
Elizabeth?
Hello?
Yeah, I'm here. You didn't see them in the episode?
No, I saw Nurse Ratched, but I didn't see the Indian.
If you see, I mean, he was just in the background. As Ratched was walking them to the cell, he was in the background with a mop.
He's always got that mop. Like every single time we see him, he's always with the mop. He's always that floor. It must be pristine by now.
Well, you know what story they're from, right?
No.
Uh, have you ever heard of that movie?
Sorry, you have to say it again because you froze.
One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Yes, I've heard of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, but I've never seen it. I have to put it on my watch list.
It's also based on it's a movie based on a book. But
Okay.
Nurse Ratched and the Indian are both characters from One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Oh. See, I've heard of Miss Ratched. I don't know anything about her character, but I've heard of her. But the Indian, I had no clue. So,
yeah,
okay.
they're both characters. That. Yes. And as soon as you see the movie, you'll understand why it's hilarious every time they show up in the asylum.
Okay.
But anyway, that being said, we do get a quick glimpse of the author. Did we know that the author was locked up like that?
No. I mean, the last time we saw him, I think they were taking him to jail. So I guess it makes sense that they locked him away. But they never resolved his story, really. So, yeah. So it was good to see that happen.
What do you think they were right in just letting him go like that?
Might as well.
I mean, I guess he doesn't really have any powers to speak of. There's not really much he could do. But really, what did they get really in exchange for letting him go?
Not much. I mean, he's like, if I were you, I'd leave town too. Like all ominous.
Well, of course, yeah. I don't know.
He wasn't that helpful.
And so, what do you think's going to come of his author powers, this whole trance thing going on or whatever?
The author said he was writing the last story. That's what he said.
Right. So, the final battle actually is what he said. This is the final battle. He said, yeah. And
again, it doesn't seem like there's going to be a season 7. If there's a final battle, that's always a series finale to me.
Okay, there's a number of reasons why it seems like there's going to be there probably won't be a season 7. But I want to say low ratings are going to stop it. But that being said, there's not a lot of high ratings on Sunday nights anyway. So there's a few factors that could save it as far as it being an established Sunday night series. Obviously the synergy and everything as far as Disney goes, but I don't even know if I want it to continue at this point, to be quite honest with you. I don't know. I mean,
you just broke my heart a little bit.
I'm interested to see. I'm interested in to at least see exactly where they're going to go with it, because they've said that if it does get a season 7, and we've been talking about this nearly every week now, but they've said that since if it does go into a season 7, that it's going to be like a different story. This is the end. This is the end of this book. That's what we got. That's the transition we got this week. The author is coming, the author powers are coming to like this because this is the end of this book. What does that mean for the characters involved in this book? The creators have said that it is that we will see stories completed. Whether that is good or bad, we'll have to see. They're basically saying that not everyone will necessarily have a happy ending.
But it's a fairy tale. Fairy tales are all supposed to get happy endings.
Yeah, but they also kind of like make a point in the show that happy endings, that real life isn't a fairy tale, and that what's going on. That's the whole point that's why everything's different from the stories, that real life isn't a fairy tale and that everything isn't black and white.
Touché.
But let me see. You said oh well, we kind of touched on that as far as
Yeah,
we
we
understand
touched
why
on the
Gideon
light
wants to
stuff.
kill. Yeah. Okay, so that yeah, the Black Fairy created the curse. We've kind of gone over that a bit. I still find that a bit confusing, but being that, like I said, it's they go out of their way to say the dark curse, not a dark curse. I kind of feel like they have to be talking about Rumple's dark curse.
Yeah.
And of course, if that's the case, like I said, we're kind of left with the questions in this episode that we're left with is like, why was the Black Fairy creating the dark curse in the first place? Now that we've discussed that this was probably the same dark curse, how did Rumple steal it? Because we've always assumed in the past that Rumple created this dark curse.
I was listening to a podcast earlier, like right before we started talking, and they reminded me in the podcast that Rumpel sent the women, Ursula, Cruella, and those three, to retrieve the dark curse. But I don't remember
From
where they retrieved it from, but he sent them to retrieve it. So I was like listening to the podcast and they were talking about that, and then I had to stop listening to it. So
that is okay. All right.
that's from like the fourth season, fifth season.
I believe so. I can't remember quite honestly, but okay. So that's another thing. Like to me, like a curse isn't something you retrieve. I mean, you might have to retrieve like the ingredients for a curse, but a curse is something you create. You know, it's not something that you just go get.
I'm having flashbacks in my head right now of an episode where Ursula and Cruella and who's the other one? Oh, Maleficent are fighting a dragon or something, and some kind of animal, and I think the curse was like on a pedestal.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I
And
mean,
they were trying to get to it.
I'm not even saying that kind of sounds familiar to me, but like, and if that is the case at the time, I must not have thought about it. But like, you know, like I said, thinking about it now, that to me, like I said, a curse is not just like something that's in a jar or something. You know, I mean, I guess maybe if you have created it, you can. I don't know. Maybe anyway. So yeah. But regardless, like I said, we know why Rumple wanted it. But if this was the curse, if the curse was creating Storybrooke, you know, creating this land without magic to go to and everything like that, we know why Rumple was trying to get there to get Bale. So if he took the curse from her, then why was she trying to get there?
Ooh, that's a good
You know
question.
what I'm saying?
That's a good question.
So again, things that really make no sense. Hopefully, they make them make sense. And then there's, like I said earlier in the episode, there's that little tiny glimpse at the end where, like, she said, you know, where she says, yeah, but there's always been a little part of you that really wanted to help me, hasn't there? And he says, yes, Mother. And the name of the episode is Mother's Little Helper. So I do feel like
Gideon is Mother's Little Helper?
No, of course. Yeah, I mean, of course, that's who. And I know you obviously know what I'm talking about here, but I got so many, like, things of Tangled in this episode.
What do you mean? No, I don't know what you mean.
Like, Mother's Little Helper.
Yeah.
That's a song from Tangled.
No, that's Mother Knows Best.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe there's a line in the song, or anyway, she was very reminiscent of that character from.
Okay, I can
Tangled.
see that, Mother Gothel.
Gideon locked up and was like wanting to have him as own, and she felt like she was raising him. Just everything about that character, I was just like, oh wow, this is like just like Tangled.
Yeah, okay, I can see that. I didn't even think about that until you brought it up. I just watched Tangled recently too.
I know, that's why I said that. I never we kind of talked about it on Facebook for a minute when you said that. And then of course, I guess, like I said, or the other thing we're left with is like how will Hook get home? And like I said, I really kind of hope to see just an episode of Hook fighting the Lost Boys in Neverland, trying to find a way back to Storybrooke.
Wouldn't it be cool if him, Hook, and the Blackbeard had a team up to get out of Neverland? I mean, that makes the most sense, right?
No, that is exactly what I'm picturing.
Yeah.
The two of them, like a buddy cop movie where you've got two people who like don't like each other, but they have to, they're always butting heads, but they have to work together in order to get out of the situation that they find themselves in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's exactly. Yep. I mean, yes, yeah. Like I said, that was actually my favorite part of this week's episode, was the few times that we actually got the interactions between Hook and Blackbeard, and I would love an episode of just them trying to get out of Neverland. Fortunately, that brings us to this week's arbitrary scale. It's probably not going to be a high number, but out of 324 webs from a giant spider, Liz, what are you going to give this week's episode?
Am I allowed to give it a 0?
You can give it whatever you want to. You're the one, scoring it.
I don't have high remarks for it. I really don't. But if I think about it long enough, I'm like, the Hook and Blackbeard scenes were nice, so I'm like, maybe I'll give it 100 points. Toss it a bone there.
Okay. All right. Yeah. I mean, I'm hoping that, like, in retrospect, that this episode will get better once we learn some of the questions that we are forced to ask ourselves after this episode or during this episode. If we do even learn some of the questions or answers to the questions that we ask ourselves during this episode, because it's not like this show has not been known to do that. Mm-hmm. That being said, unfortunately, at least on first viewing or third viewing at this point, honestly, I'll go a little higher than you. I'll say 137 out of 324.
Not much higher.
Yeah, like I said, this was a really bad episode. I'm hoping in the future, when they answer, when we get like the Black Fairy's backstory and different things like that, that maybe it will make this episode make a little more sense. Mm-hmm. But at this point, I just like they like I said, I hate when people get loosey goosey with magical stuff, and like not only get loosey goosey, but almost kind of contradict themselves on the way things work in the past. As far as like the heart thing goes and everything like that. Of course, that whole flashback thing was kind of wonky. Just so much of this episode was really confusing. I feel like they tried to put too much into one episode. I think that was the problem. I really do. I feel like because they're trying to work their way to the end of the season/series so quickly, I feel like they are you playing something?
No.
Well, anyway, I feel like they are trying to work their way too quickly to the end of either the season or the series, whatever the case may be, and they're trying to just brush a bunch of stuff aside at this point and say, okay, this is what's happening now.
I don't want this to end. It's my favorite show. I'm sentimental. What can I say? I love my characters, and yeah.
No, and that's, when you've been following a story for 7 years, it can, sentimental is a very apt word. It can be very you're watching these people week in and week out, and especially when you're taking the time to discuss, like we do every week, about like what's going on in their lives, even. You're gonna, regardless of whether the writing of the episode and how things have been progressing, when the show goes away, you're going to miss these characters. They've been in your life for the past 7 years.
Yeah.
But all good things do come to an end at a certain point.
No.
So whether it be this season, whether it be this season, next season, or the season after that, it will come to an end eventually. But for now, for now, let's move on to the news. Let's see if two of us can do this. Okay,
right.
Move on to the news.
Nope,
two of us can't do it. News. All right, Liz, what do you have for this week's ratings?
This episode's ratings talk about your final battles. ABC Bubble drama Once Upon a Time this Sunday drew 2.6 million total viewers and a 0.7 demo rating, dipping on both counts to mark new series lows. Not
to
good
mark,
at all.
New series lows.
Yep.
Yeah, that's not. Wow.
But
wow.
I don't know if that counts for people that record the shows and watch it later. I don't know how that works.
Well, it depends on. Okay, number one, it depends on when it was that you got the ratings, or that these ratings went up. But then, yes, like you were saying, that they're more than likely the 2.6 and the 0.7 is just a live viewer rating. So you do still have DVR. You have on demand. They call those
Hulu.
+7, I believe. Hulu, yes, Hulu. Pretty much, but it's like on a sliding scale. So of course your live viewers are going to be more important to your advertisers, and then from there you've got like your +7, they call it. So anyone who, pretty much that means anyone who's DVR'd it and watched it within the first week. And then it starts scaling down from there. If people are watching it on demand like 3 weeks after it aired, then obviously the ratings on that aren't going to matter as much as the live and the +7. Anyway, so yes, you are totally correct. As that at the very least, these ratings probably don't add the +7, the on demand and DVR. But unfortunately, that's probably not going to do too much as far as bumping the ratings all that much when you've got low ratings like this. I mean, no. It's not like they're going to double with the +7s. It might tick up to a from a 2.6 to a 3 if they're lucky. But it's not like they're going to all of a sudden have 5 million viewers as opposed to 2.6.
That would be nice, but it would be a big surprise.
Yeah, it would be nice. Yeah, but I'm not going to hold my breath, unfortunately. But like we said earlier in the cast, there are some pros and cons as to why ABC might keep it around. So fingers crossed. And like I said, at the very least I would be curious to see what they have in store for the series. If it does go on. Yeah. Well, both, I guess. If it ends. And if it does go on, we'll see. More than likely, this series or this season will end. They'll probably write the series to act as either or, to where it can be a series ender if ABC decides to cancel it, or if ABC decides to hold on for another season, then whatever they've set up in that story, they can add another. They can Well, pretty much it will be starting a new book because, like we've said, we're coming to the end of this first book.
I didn't even think of it like that. Like closing one book, opening a new book. That's kind of cool when you think about it that way, I guess.
And that's exactly what the creators are going for at this point.
Okay. I can accept it when you put it in those terms.
All right, so we don't really usually have a lot of listener or viewer feedback lately, but we do have some feedback on our Facebook this week. Liz, do you have that for us?
I'm ready. This comes from Rachel Nash. She said, I am so tired of every villain flip-flopping into a misunderstood good guy. They've done it so many times, and I'm just so over it. It's beginning to feel like manipulation.
Certainly, and we discussed that earlier too. I mean, I certainly understand their point that, you know, not everything's black and white. You know, not there's a reason most people go down the roads they go down, and certain people can go down a road for one reason and be I don't want to say manipulated, but for some reason that's the word that's coming to mind. But you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, like we said earlier, Cruella, it seems like, is like the only person who's just evil. And like I
want to see the
said,
Black Fairy the same. That's what I want. I want the Black Fairy to be the same as Cruella. That's what I want. I don't know that's going to happen, but
it would, at this point, it would make no sense if the Black Fairy was the same as Cruella, because that would mean that Rumple's dad got with okay, not only would it mean that Rumple's dad got with an evil fairy, which makes no sense, but it would mean that she got with, like, why, like, okay, I could almost make sense of the first thing I just said, but then why would the Black Fairy get with him? You know what I'm saying?
It's almost like it's poor Rumple. Both of his parents are bad seeds. It's no wonder he has such difficult time.
Yeah, but I feel like what's going to happen is part of the reason that, and I keep I know I've mentioned this before, but I can't remember Rumple's dad's name.
I don't remember it either anymore.
I know. Cameron? No.
No, I don't think it was Cameron. I don't remember. Maybe someone will write in and tell us.
No, it happened last time. I can't, like, the last time I tried to mention his name, someone else had to pop in and tell me what it was. Like, I just can't remember. But now I've lost my train of thought. I'm sorry. Oh, okay. No, you're fine. That was my fault. Okay. So I think that the reason that we found him in the state that he was in, you know, wanting to give up Rumple and become Peter Pan, more or less, will be because of his wife or the mother of Rumple, whether they have been married or not. You know, I don't know, because we don't really see that. I feel like she's going to be the reason that, you know, led him to be the way he was. So I feel like more than likely they were a happy couple at one point. Why, how, I have no clue. I mean, that's what we're gonna see, hopefully. Have we been told if he's coming back at all this season or no?
The father? The old man version?
Yes.
No, I haven't heard anything about that. Not at all.
Okay.
I haven't even heard of a cat. I mean, I don't know if they even cast like a younger version. I haven't heard anything about that.
No, I hear you. It would just make sense to me that he would be back for the backstory of the Black Fairy.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
At least some scenes of the Black Fairy leaving Rumple and his father.
Mm-hmm. But it would make sense if
or at
it
least
was
that's
a
what I
younger
was.
man, right?
It could. Not much younger though, because when we see Rumple and his dad, Rumple is what, maybe 10? So yeah, it couldn't have been much younger. But yeah, I could see them maybe trying to cast a younger person. But either way, that's probably what I'm most interested to see at this point is just what the heck is going on with the Black Fairy.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah, I want to.
and
Yeah.
and while it sucks that more than likely it's not going to be just that she's evil, and it does kind of feel like, how was it that Rachel put it? We're being manipulated.
Yeah.
It can feel that way. Um, but I don't know if the story dictates it, So
Mm-hmm.
as long at the end of the day, as long as the writers write a good story and it makes sense, then then that could even make the episode we watched tonight a good episode. And that's what I'm hoping. I'm hoping that the Black Fairy episode that we finally ultimately get will make me look back at this episode as a better episode.
I don't know. She's cruel to children. She makes them work in a mine. It's child labor.
No. Yeah. I totally agree. But like, don't even get me started with some of the stuff Regina did.
Okay, fine. I won't make you go there.
But anyway, that's the old what were the original evil. I don't know, confusing. Anyway, so that's pretty much all we have to say about this week. If you do want to leave us any feedback like Rachel did this week, you can always hit us up on our email of greetingsfromstorybrooke@gmail.com. You can hit us up on our Twitter @GFStorybrooke. Of course, you can always catch us on Facebook like Rachel did at facebook.com/Greetings from Storybrooke. And to be quite honest, that's where most of our traffic does come from as far as any kind of interaction with fans. And then, of course, there's I don't even know if it's set up still. I think it is, but you can try to reach us at our voicemail of 424-274-2352. That is 424-274-2352. So I guess that's gonna do it for this week. Unfortunately, like we both said,
it was a bad episode.
Yeah. But that's okay. There's always next week.
Yes, I'm looking forward to next week's episode. Did you see the promo?
Oh no, I didn't. Oh my god, I'm so sorry. Please, what was it? We didn't even talk about it, Elizabeth. What was the promo?
Okay, so spoilers if anybody doesn't want to hear this and stop listening, but next episode, Snow and Charming will be reunited.
Okay, so this will be Regina breaking the sleeping curse.
Regina will break the sleeping curse, and it also looks like Snow and Charming. I don't know. It was hard to tell from the promo, but no, they might be either going back in time or not to stop Emma from ever becoming the savior. Like they're standing in front of a door in the promo, and Snow's like, if we go through this door, Emma may never become the savior.
Huh.
So I'm waiting to see what goes on. I'm really excited about this coming episode.
Did you read like a synopsis for it or anything?
I did a little while ago, but I don't remember the exact word. Like when it comes to, it was like David and Snow make a decision that could change Emma's life.
So that almost sounds between that and the way you described the promo as if maybe they're going back to.
And in the promo, you see Emma as a little girl.
This makes right. Okay, but as like in our world, or in the Enchanted Forest?
She's just sitting on a bed. So I think it's our.
But how is she? And how is she dressed? There's nothing.
She's dressed more like our world clothes, I think. Yeah.
Okay. Huh. Like maybe they go back to when she was a kid to try to raise her.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Huh.
But that changes everything if that happens, which I don't think will happen because we know what happens down the road as the season progresses.
Yeah, obviously they'll decide against it and realize, yeah. But it's definitely interesting. I like little what if episodes.
Yeah. Yeah, so it should be interesting.
No, yeah, I definitely wish I watched that now. But okay, once again, that's all for this week. I guess you can join us next week. Hopefully Tony will be with us. If not, Liz and I will be here for
Greetings
from Storybrooke.